And I'm broadcasting now. Hi, everyone. Hopefully we're live and ready to go. We've got a few participants already joining in. Thanks for joining. My name's Chris Daglis from Chris Daglis Partnered Solutions. I'm co-hosting this event along with Chad Counselman from All Auto Recalls. Hi, Chad.
How you doing, Chris?
Very well, thank you. We've got some super panelists on the call today. We've got young Paul Diadamo from Raz Cause, bottom left of the screen. Oh, he's not talking.
Everybody.
And we've got Vince Edivan from the Automotive Recyclers Association. Sorry, guys, I've just got myself all mixed up there.
That's quite all right. I love the way you almost gave me Paul's last name. We are brothers. We are paisanos. We do have different names.
Excellent. So thanks, guys. Thanks for making it possible. Great to have you guys on. So a couple of things before we kick off. Really, this show is about having a chat about some of the opportunities that exist out there. I really want to keep a positive spin to it, as we did last week. We had some really, really good discussions, some excellent questions. At the end of this call, we're going to be announcing some of our panelists for next week. We haven't got them all finalized, but we've got some really, really good ones next week as well. So really excited about that. It'll be coming from slightly a different angle, possibly something to do with insurance. So let's hang on right to the end, and we'll talk a little bit about those next week. The focus is about how we're going to get through the current situation, but also drive through and be in a really good spot as we come out of the coronavirus environment. So please be aware of that. So without any further ado, Chad, can I hand over to you? Have you got any comments before we kick off with Paul and Vince?
Paul has been a personal friend for several years now. Got to know he and his wife through the years with the conventions and stuff, and really respect Paul. His previous yard owner sold out and then went into consulting, and then ultimately ended up working with Raz, handling the recalls there. And so great to have you on the call today, Paul, and look forward to what you have to share with us. We know that you have face-to-face contact with a number of recycling facilities across the U.S., and we look for your input on what's going on. You are a motivational speaker that travels and speaks at several conventions too, and so we know you're well-spoken. And you're also a instructor at a local university, I believe, also, aren't you? And so,
well, since I joined Raz, I had to give up my professorial position.
Okay.
And you can still call me the professor, you know?
Vince has a history working at Copart for many years, and then did some freelance work, and then he's been on board with ARA for well over a year now, and in charge of member relations for ARA, and he has face-to-face contact with recyclers all over the U.S. and over the world also, and I look forward to hearing some information as to what you're learning as to what's going on in the environment this week also.
Thanks, Chad.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Paul, let's get straight into this. You're at Raz Cause, but you're focused on the recalls, the Takata airbag recall. You're the, as we call them, the recall guy, the yank that bag guy. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing at the minute. Obviously, you haven't had as much contact face-to-face with your customers recently, but how's it affecting them and you?
Well, as far as the recalls, I have to say our flow has still been strong. And in fact, with this situation, a number of people have come out of the woodwork, I'm going to say, people who maybe hadn't really participated, some that were somewhat participating. They see an opportunity to eliminate their liability while maintaining or maximizing a revenue stream. So we're actually getting new customers for a program that's been around since 2015.
You're muted, Chris.
Muted again. Sorry, I've got this dog next door that keeps on barking, so I've got to mute. Chad, it's not my dog; it's the one next door this time. Anyways, so Chad, you've been obviously in the recall business now with All Auto Recalls and myself for some 6 weeks, I'd say now. I think we've seen something similar over here with people sort of coming out of the woodwork, right?
Yeah, I believe so. What I have seen, I know I've only been here 6 weeks, but we have seen recyclers come up and say, I've never had my VIN list run before. I want to see if I have any recalled airbags on the shelves. Here in Australia, we're actually able to pay for bags that we know have been crushed also. And so we're running some historical VIN lists and paying them for those. And we're seeing people use that as a revenue stream right now. And it's lots of people coming forward and running thousands and thousands of VINs on a daily basis now. So absolutely an influx of demand for that product because we still have the money flowing from the manufacturer to pay out for these recalled components.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Paul.
What I was going to say is, to make a distinction, in the US, we don't have that program to do historical. So it's a great point. And, Chris, I think you guys have taken a little bit of a different approach down in Australia, but it's important for the US recyclers to know that that's something that was evaluated. But quite frankly, with the US legal system, I think it was an issue of recyclers willing to sign an affidavit to say that all those crushed cars, none of those airbags reached the marketplace. And I think there was a reluctance to do that. So that was early on in the program. That's my understanding. So it's a good point. I'm glad you brought it up, Chad. I just want to make sure the U.S. auto recyclers know it's not something that we just dished off. It was just something that didn't seem appropriate for our market.
Sure. I think there are different scenarios for different markets, right? I think I saw last night on Facebook, Paul, on the the Professional Salvage Yards Forum about Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda over in the US. They're not participating in the program, whereas over here, not only they're participating, but they've got all auto recalls on their corporate website, basically saying if you need to dispose of your VW, Audi, or Skoda airbags, this is who you contact. So, it's an interesting sort of scenario where you've got different scenarios in different countries, right? So it's not all the same. So Vince, tell us a little bit about, you've been doing a few of these webinars recently, which is great. And I think, the world is getting smaller, isn't it? I know we're not face-to-face and we're not touch and feel anymore at the minute, but it's enabled, I think, a new medium through which to communicate, which is this type of a scenario. And Facebook, we've got people streaming on Facebook as we speak. We've got a number of participants on this show at the minute. So what are you seeing over in the US from an ARA perspective as the marketing person, I suppose, if I can use that term?
So ARA's mission has always been to be the resource for the auto recycler. We've done that through training. Has really it's like drinking from a fire. And so with a big part of what we do being kind of turned off, all the legislative stuff has shut down. I mean, we're still continuing to monitor and have conversations and reach out, but none of the the federal and state level sessions are closed. So there's no real work to be done there other than the kind of some behind the scenes. But and there's no face to face. But there's a whole lot of information, and we see people clamoring for information, and they're getting it from all different areas. So one of the things that we did first was we realized that this was our role to step up and to try to aggregate that information as best we could and provide it in a way that not just our members. We kind of decided really, really quickly, it was a no-brainer that we were going to treat the whole industry as a member, right? And so we wanted to provide information and help, phone calls, emails, text messages, documents, links, whatever we could to help the recyclers navigate what's very, very treacherous waters right now. One of the things that I've realized over the last few weeks is, so I've always believed that people really crave community, right? They crave this interaction with other people. Some people naturally more than others, right? And Paul and I are examples of that. Like, we thrive on being around people. Well, even in this current climate, right, you can't do that, like you mentioned, Chris. So we're looking for new ways to do this, and so you know, I started turning on the camera and doing short little updates for people, bringing discussions on. I brought Paul and Teresa on, and we just talked about Paul, Teresa, and oh, help me out, I forgot Paul. Who?
Uh-oh.
Oh my.
Becky, my bad. Becky, I apologize. I drew a blank there. But you know, we you know, Becky and Teresa and Paul and myself were 4 extroverted road warriors, and so we all got on there and just said, you know, how are you handling quarantine when you're this type of personality? So what we've learned is we're meeting the information. We're trying very hard to meet the information need. We're trying very hard to meet the community need. You mentioned we did this coffee talk, right? It was just designed this morning. I did it. It was just designed to be a, you know, water cooler break room chat for Monday morning, you know, so people can interact with other people. So we're really looking at all different ways, whether it's small bits, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, open panel discussions like what you're doing. We're just looking to you know, stand in the gap between what the industry needs and what we can do to meet that need. So
Excellent. Thanks, Vince. Paul?
Well, I was going to say, most of us are on the Professional Salvage Yard Forum hosted by Greg Condon. And in the fall of 19, we actually initiated some discussions about vendor forum. And today, Matt Hamlin as another extension. Obviously, most of us vendors, we're not really allowed to advertise on the Professional Salvage Yard Forum, which is understandable. Keep that neat and clean, great for recyclers. But I think that forum has been phenomenal. There's over 2,000 members.
Yeah, it's great.
The virtual trade show, timing is everything. The idea was, you know, basically born in the fall of last year. Matt was busy. We got talking a couple of weeks ago, and he says, Paul, this is the time right now. So we've got over 200 members. We're not trying to splinter from Salvage Yard Forum. Keep that. But if you want more vendor-focused information, or ARA is posting on there, URG, the state associations can post. Again, it's pushing that community, that informational channel that we still desperately need.
Yeah, I think that's
real new, that's fresh.
Really, really important. I think one of the things, you know, and Chad and I have been speaking about this for a fair amount of time now, about how we get information out there to people. And, you know, it's probably 3 months ago now, Paul and even Vince, yourself and Chad, with the 4 of us had a bit of a chat via emails and some discussions over the phone, which was about, let's get on and do a show. And it was before really the coronavirus took hold, didn't it? Wasn't it? And the reality is that we said, let's do a bit of a show about nothing. Let's get on and talk about things that are happening in the industry. You know, I said Seinfeld did a show about nothing. It was a huge success. Not suggesting we're going to do a Seinfeld here, but certainly there's an opportunity for the industry to get closer and to communicate better. The beauty of this, I'm just looking at some of the people watching at the minute. We've got the UK on, we've got the US on, we've got New Zealand, we've got Australian people on, we've got someone from the Netherlands on, you know, so we've got people from all over the world, you know, communicating where this would not be possible previously, right? Now, guys, please, if you could, as in attendees, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, please put it in your chat. I've just got a chat here now that's just come through from Peter Butler. Paulie, he says, hi guys, love the monkey, Paulie. So Paul, do you want to tell us a story about the monkey before we get into some more serious stuff? You might have a joke for us.
So when I was doing the consulting and training, when I first got on the road in 2017, one of my seminars was Don't Feed the Monkey. So I became the monkey man. I talked about micromanaging and the monkey on your back. We all have a monkey. Some of us have multiple monkeys. Some of us have big fat monkeys. Some of us have little monkeys. I would say Chad, knowing him for the last several years, that this is a man who was destined to not carry a big monkey. He carried a lot of responsibility, but he's a delegator. He ran his business through his people. And that's a big challenge for a lot of small independent business people, recyclers or otherwise. It's so easy to want control and take everything and therefore not be able to really drive their business. I wrote an article for April's edition of the Power Source and Toolbox and the other magazines. And I said, sometimes crisis provides you with an opportunity to make changes that you couldn't make otherwise, whether it be people are, I hate the term, fat and happy. Sometimes they don't like change. Crisis allows you to sometimes make those changes that are desperately needed, but you couldn't do it pre-crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
Get the monkey off your back, Peter.
I'm sure he's having a bit of a laugh at that. Okay, so we started speaking about cause, and we're looking at ways for people, and of course that we spoke briefly about some of the wage support that the US government is giving over there. Obviously in Australia, they're doing something similar, but different. New Zealand, the UK, there are different scenarios in different parts of the world. And next week, we'll be talking to some people from the UK. There's a bit of a sneak preview on what's happening next week, and I'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. And they may have a slightly different view of what's happening and a scenario there. But when we come to cause, you know, I think we spoke on last week's episode, chat about having visited some yards where we saw a lot of product out there that's sitting around and so forth. And Paul, one of the topics that you brought up was, you know, let's find a way to get product out of our old inventory and get rid of it, if you like, or sell it, turn it into cash. Again, the things that when things are good, we don't really worry about too much. It sits there and just builds up. Things are good, you know, we're selling other products. So, Chad, do you want to tell us a little bit about what we saw and potentially what some of the opportunities around cause are there?
Well, whenever I first arrived in Australia, Chris had arranged for me to travel with him and meet a good number of the recyclers here in Australia. And we visited in that first week probably 25 or 30 different facilities. And it surprised me the sheer volume of inventory on the shelves. Small rotating components, so starters, alternators, compressors, different things, and just they don't purge them. They don't purge the cores here in Australia. And so we immediately went to find a core buyer to bring to the Australian market to try to provide a resource to get rid of some of the cores, because they've been throwing the stuff in the trash here, hauling it off, putting it in the crushed cars and getting rid of it that way. And so we're working right now to bring a solution here to Australia for the cores to actually be remanufactured or to be exported to be remanufactured. But a lot of them here on the shelves. And that's what Paul wants to talk about today is now is the time to purge your shelves, to look at getting some stuff cleaned up and to Heimlich maneuver, because I think that's the term you used, your inventory to turn it into revenue.
So, Paul, talk to us about your maneuver, the Heimlich maneuver.
Right. So again, I go back to one of my seminars. Some of the most common things that I would see, and I remember when I came into the business, I came from the outside. So I wasn't shackled with family traditions and, you know, we've always done it this way. So it was very easy for me to turn inventory, and that's loose parts in vehicles. And the Heimlich maneuver means that we are choking on inventory. It might be a matter of degree, but we're choking on it. And Chad, you mentioned earlier how we've all been in places where we filled the racks, so now we're stacking the stuff on the floor. And that to me is just a red flag that something is drastically wrong, and what we've become is married to our product. And I'm in the sales business. I'm married to one woman. That's it. Product should go. Sell it. And I'll talk about specials. That really is something that we have a very robust team at RAS, and we run these specials when a remanufacturer says, look, we need this part now. We've got a small window. We are willing to pay close to the average retail for a used part just to get it in our system. Because remember, that's the supply chain. We sell to remanufacturers who rebuild the stuff, put it on the shelves as quote unquote rebuild, remanufactured. We call recyclers, and they've got 25, 30 rack campaigns on the shelf. We want to buy all of them, but we'd be happy with 10. The price on the shelf is an average of $75. We can pay up to 50, and we'll pay for the shipping. And more times than not, now I'm all set. I'm going to sell all of those. Chad, what's your reaction?
You're crazy. You're living in idea mindset from years ago. It's time to get rid of stuff, turn the money into cash, reinvest the cash into cars, turn the money fast. And so it's all about cycle time and how fast you can turn that money through your operation. And something like that, you've got 30 on the shelf, you need probably 2 or 3, depends on what your actual demand is for it that you're having. But you run some reports, you make some decisions, you get rid of everything that's above, 20 or 30,000 miles and make it disappear as a core. You don't have to worry with warranting it, no refunds, no more hassle with that part. It goes straight into your checking account. And so it's time to purge that inventory and get rid of it if you've got more than what you need on the shelf to meet your demand.
So remember this, you mentioned old school ways. True, I would say, I'm not sure if it's 50%, 30%, we've got some still old school thinkers. And the first thing and you guys even are guilty of this, the first things you said were alternators and starters. And I can tell you, that's not necessarily where the money is going to be anymore, okay? Because the scrap value has dropped out. So it's not like, oh, well, minimally I'll get $5. That's not happening anymore. We don't want to process scrap at RAS or the other core vendors. And I don't want to speak for the other core vendors, but I believe we probably have similar mindsets about what it is today. Cores are a game of risk. We're buying traditionally on speculation that we hoard X amount of products. And then at some point, the remanufacturers say, hey, we need them. And then we've got literally 5,000 we can sell to them. Guess what? The game of risk, we have to bring that level down for RAS because we can't stockpile products forever. And that's where this smart thinking, when we say, look, sometimes customers will complain, well, they want the product number. Yeah, guess what? There's multitude of products in a certain category, number of wiper motors, number of brain boxes, but the remanufacturers have a demand for these 3 numbers. So you can't complain. This is the new way. If you can't provide those numbers and match, they're not selling the part, we're not buying the part. It's no value, just the way it is today. So that lends into your dismantling process, your workflow, when you pull cores. Some recyclers say, well, I won't pull a core unless it's $25, $50. I think it's time for a change because dismantling systems that have been set up to maximize your dismantler's time. I'm not going to pull a wiper motor for $8. Well, you know what? The wiper motor, the recalls, the other products, maybe you've got $150, $200, but you're ignoring them because individually they don't meet your threshold.
Yeah.
True. Right now with the SBA loans, the labor force theoretically is being paid by the federal government for a 2-month period. If you're taking out one of these new PPP loans and then it's going to be forgiven, so you've got free labor right now to go pull some cores. Scott Robertson just sent a message on the Facebook live feed. Why would you actually pull a part and put it on the shelf? It's time to rethink. When you're evaluating, it's time to purge inventory. If it's time to purge inventory, it's time to change a process in your dismantling and your racking whole process so that you're not putting that part on the shelf in the future. And so if you need to change the way you're working with your inventory personnel to say, if I've got X number in a ratio of what the demand is, then don't pull a part, go straight to a core bin with it, and don't even put it on the shelf because you have to add labor to the fact of pulling it off the shelf at a later date. You'd be better off to just put it straight into a core bin and get rid of it. So now is time to think about revamping the way that you handle your dismantling processes.
I think just on that, really good points. And what I'd like to do is just hand over to the audience as well, and make sure that, guys, if you've got questions or comments on any of this, please do add them in the chat. I think it's really, really important that we get a good variety of input from everyone. It's not just about what the four of us have got to say. It's about what everyone can bring together, and hopefully we find a better solution potentially. One of the things that comes to mind, Paul, Chad, and Vince, is that when we were visiting a number of these yards, you know, a few of them said, "Oh yeah, but I sell my air conditioning compressors." Okay. And I sell my alternators, and I sell my starter motors, and I sell my drive shaft. And it's like, really? Let's run a few reports here. So we run the, you know, last 365 days on alternators. And it's like, well, okay, you've sold $10,000 worth of alternators. You've got a buyer here that's going to give you $50,000 wholesale to take the lot. And you've got 500 alternators. You know what I mean? It's like, really, let's think about this. Run the reports. Have a look at the data. Because if you've got 5 alternators that are generating your 80% of those you know, dollar sales, the rest of them are scrap. So let's try and move that. I think that's where we need to use our data better. We've got that data available now. Let's try and use that a lot better, I think, is the key there. Obviously, we need buyers. Every selling market needs a buying market. So we spent a bit of time with a couple of English fellows, Ross and John from Auto Enterprises over here, who are looking at buying cores. Obviously, the COVID-19 has challenged that initiative a little bit that they had, but they'll be back in 3 to 6 months, and there will be buyers out there. So start preparing. Vince, have you got any, so from an ARA perspective, any views on the core piece? Have you had any feedback from people at ARA or ARA members around cores and what they're doing there?
So my role within ARA is slightly to the left of the conversation, because I've not been an operator, so I've never had a hands-on experience with what you guys are talking about. Certainly the executive committee, who are all operators, are dealing with this, and they're having those conversations. What I do know is that parallel to what you're discussing about looking for new ways and kind of sweeping the cobwebs out of the corners, this is just one example of it. What you're talking about, we're hearing a lot of those conversations about like you said, Chad. People now have the time, so they're taking a look at some of the operations, the way they do things. They are taking on some projects to help improve their facilities. They're using the ARA University to catch up on training. In some cases, you've got businesses that are paying employees but can't really, they don't have enough work for them to do. So this is a great time to catch up on the training. This is a great time to log on to ARAU and take advantage of it. But we are seeing a lot of operators looking around and taking a hard, close look at what they're doing, what they've been doing, and how they can improve going forward.
Oh.
Well, speaking of that, and knowing more about the PPP, I got to tell you, it may not be welcome news, but there's a number of businesses that I've been to that if they just, we talked about survive to thrive as one of the topics. And in my estimation, there are many visitations I've had that if I was a customer or a potential employee, I would never go back. Parts in the front, housekeeping is atrocious. One guy, I said to him, I said, luckily I persisted because I could see the building. I could not see a path to get to it. Housekeeping, curb appeal. If you want to survive to thrive, even with online sales, there are many recyclers, self-serve, full-serve, who still do a fair amount of retail trade. Use this time, clean up. I've been to offices where I see 30, 50, 100 radios. Guys, that's 1980. Get that crap out of there. No offense. Clean that stuff out of there. Paint the walls. Paint is cheap. When I was at Bill's Auto Parts, this building was ancient to begin with. One day I said to the guys, guess what? I'm buying a spray gun. I'm not going to clean the walls. I'm going to take what I can get down, and I'm spraying, and anything, including you, who's stationary, are going to get sprayed. And I'll tell you what, the week after that, people walked in and go, whoa, what happened? It's
Yeah.
bright. Simple things. I'm just a little OCD. You guys know me well enough. I like clean things clean. I like my customers to see things clean. Housekeeping, curb appeal.
I think a lot of us are experiencing that even personally. Like I'm looking around and I've there's probably 4 or 5 projects, little things around my house that I've always said I don't have time to do. I'm 3 weeks plus, almost 4, into this quarantine. It turns out it was never about me not having time to do them. So, I think that translates to the business, doesn't it? When you walk into your business, you probably head down and nose to the grindstone and legitimately have not had time to do the things that you're describing, Paul. But all those reasons have been stripped away.
Guys, there's a couple of comments and questions on the Facebook feed from Shan McMillan and some responses from Chad Counts. So I'm going to touch on those in a second, but I want to just on that point of curb appeal or making things look clean before we go to the Facebook questions. My view on all that is, how are we viewed by a more strategic buyer? Okay, so if let's say insurers want to use more recycled parts. They want to come and visit our industry. They want to come and have a look at what our yards look like. They want to sort of see who they're going to be dealing with. These are big corporates, publicly listed organizations. They need to be doing business with people that are doing the right things. Okay, work health and safety, environmental, all of those things are critical to them. And the old adage that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression is like, it's simple, right? Someone sees your operation, someone sees you, they need to be able like this to make a call on who they're dealing with. Do I want to deal with Paul or do I not want to deal with Paul, right? And I want to deal with Paul if what I see meets what I'm trying to achieve in my business. So I know it's tough at the minute because, we don't want to spend money at this point in time when there isn't revenue coming through, but you've got time. And I think, Vince, you're right. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much time you've got, you don't get those things done, right? Because they're in the too hard basket.
Your point about a first impression, think about it, is a very good point. But it's even broader than that. You think about if you get an inspection, right? If the fire department, this OSHA, is any of the regulatory inspectors, they stop by, that first impression, when you've spent some time cleaning up, painting, making things look nice, impression is going to count, isn't it, Chad?
Absolutely. I had OSHA visit me one time and we just spent 3 months getting prepared for a possible OSHA inspection. And then they showed up, they camped out for 3 days. And finally the third day I was like, dude, what's going on here? And he says, I can't leave until I write you a fine. I said, what? And he said, I can't, Obama's got new laws that says that I can't leave here until I write you a fine. And so he said, I'll write you a fine for a malfunctioning blowback valve on a torch. I said, do I have one? He says, no, but it's only $2,500. It's the cheapest thing I can write you a fine for. I said, write the fine and leave. Get out of here. I mean, he left, but he had microphones on the lapel of my dismantler listening to see if the impact gun was too loud for his ear to hear. I mean, it had gone crazy, and he never could find anything because we had spent the time, had prepared the facility. We hired a third party to come in actually and help us make decisions on what we needed to improve and make things right. And now is the time to do stuff like that. Get things cleaned up, get procedures and processes in place, get the paperwork in place that gets you certified, step up the level. Use the ARA Gold Seal and car certification program to be a stepping stone and achieve that type stuff. And make it happen so that you are prepared. You've got time now to do it, and you've got labor that is virtually free right now. Use that labor to do what needs to be done to clean up and organize and make things right and train them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go to a couple of the Facebook questions. So Shan McMillan, just in regard to cores, how do you find the magic number of how many should be kept on the shelf? So we were talking before about how many of those alternators or starter motors or whatever it is you leave on the shelf versus you core out. Chad, I suppose you're probably the best person to sort of have a bit of a chat about that.
What is you want to keep 90 days worth of stock on the shelf, is if that is your number, and then you look at your demand for the 90 days and you look at your close ratio for the 90 days. And so if you're having demand for 40 products and your close ratio is 10% for that product, you only need 4 of them in order to meet the demand for a 90-day stock. And so encourage them to reach a 90-day stock if that's the number you want. You may only want to keep a 30-day stock, and so you just run the numbers based on that. So demand, close ratio, and your current quantity on hand.
Yeah. So Chad Counts has responded to Shan as well. Very similar there. Chad Counselman. So for most part, Shan, all based on demand, more about your data and the product than the magic number. Some parts you do want them all, others none. If you don't have the data, then holding to a minimum makes a lot of sense. Shan's response: which of those numbers do you use to make the decision more accurately, etc., etc., reference to ratios. So again, good conversation. I love the fact that we've got interaction here. I love the fact that Shan's asking the question. I love the fact that we've got Chad, the two Chads, coincidence, sort of talking about it, because they will help, other recyclers make the right decisions. Couple of questions that have come through. Vince, since COVID-19 situation, have any of the US inventory software suppliers provided any fee relief to the auto recyclers? If so, who and what, please? Good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Chad. So I know that our executive director, Sandy Blaylock, is having conversations with a lot of our partners, and they are anxious to figure out how they can help in this situation. And I think those conversations are ongoing and still in development. So that's about as good as I can get for now.
Okay, so at this point, what you're saying, Vince, is that no one's made any comment or any announcement that they're going to be waiving certain fees or anything like that for the use of a yard management system.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay.
We're having very similar requests here in Australia also, where the yards are reaching out to Hollander also and saying, hey, can you give us a break for a few months? And so it's a global request. It's not just centralized to the US. It is a global request that's going on.
Absolutely. And look, just sorry, Paulie, one quick second, if I can just, part of my role in the consulting part of my business is I represent Hollander in Australia as their contracted GM. And just a position from a Hollander perspective at this point in time, I don't want to make this a Hollander thing or anything like that, but from a Hollander piece or Hollander International here in Australia, it's a very similar situation, Vince, whereby I know that the US is currently, or the parent company is looking at the situation and trying to determine a position for the Australian and New Zealand users. And I believe the UK users as well, as far as what relief they can offer. So hopefully we're going to have something out to the market towards the end of April. But certainly, the sooner the better.
Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to help. Everybody's talking about how we can help. I think those conversations are still in development. So,
sure. Vince, another question's come through about ARA training. How can we access the ARA training?
Great question, Chris. So ARA University is a free member benefit. You have to be a member of ARA in order to access it. If you are a member of ARA, all you have to do is you can go to our website and you can register your business, register your administrator, and all the credentials you'll need will be supplied to you. You can certainly just register. You can certainly just reach out to me. I'm out there on our Facebook page. I'm easy to get in contact with. You can email me at vince@a-r-a.org. So and just ask me the question, and I can get to you. I can speak to the specific recycler that's looking at having an interest in taking advantage of that. But
that specific request came in from a Australian recycler just then, so you may want to explore the option of what the rates may be for Australian recycler to join ARA.
Yeah, again, if the person who asked that reaches out to me, I will make sure to get them the information of what it would take for them, because it's obviously different. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So let's communicate. I think that's critical. The ARA University, I think I mentioned it last week, is really, really good. I've had a look at a whole heap of their courses, and they're, again, perfect time to do it, guys. You got, downtime. Some of your people aren't as busy as they were. Yeah, you want them doing as much as possible to create revenue, but sometimes it's about short-term pain for long-term gain, right? You need to do the effort, put the work in now to actually get the result. So absolutely. Okay, so good discussion there. Welcome to Cow from Malaysia. Cow is on Facebook.
Wow.
He's the Malaysian sort of chairman or CEO of the association over there. So welcome, Cow. Great to have you on. Okay, Paul, flip-flops.
You say tomato, I say tomato. We say flip-flops, you say, come on.
I say thongs. What's the problem?
Why do Australians call flip-flops thongs?
Yeah, they have some crazy terms over here, Paul. I find myself, even last night, Chris's wife, Andrea, gave me a recipe to cook bread. I'm living here by myself, and my wife and daughter are still back in the U.S. And so she gave me some flour, some yeast, and a recipe to cook bread. I was reading the recipe, and I said, what is lashings? And she said, well, that's where you put lots of butter on the bread. And it's like, who's ever heard of that, And so there's all kinds of crazy terms down here in Australia.
We're the crazy ones. Seriously.
Yes, actually.
Vince is laughing. Vince is laughing because he knows that I'm talking to a guy from Mobile, Alabama, and I'm the crazy one.
hey, Chad, what meal is it that you eat after lunch toward the evening time? What is that meal called?
Oh, supper.
No.
Dinner. Dinner.
It's dinner, Chad.
Lunch happens in the noon hour.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think the moral of the story, though, Paulie, is that, yeah, you say tomatoes, we say tomatoes, or whatever, tomatoes. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the same thing. It's a fruit. I think it's a fruit.
I've learned that a wing is a fender, a guard is a fender, a bonnet is a hood. I've learned all kinds of terms down here.
A trunk is a boot.
Yeah.
Paulie, you were going to say something?
So getting back to the YMSs, I think there's an opportunity here. In lieu of reducing fees, perhaps, one thing that ARA, RAS, at some point, we need a bigger solution in the yard management systems, without a doubt. I think a very low cost development would be to simply flag the VINs as they're coming into the YMSs on their inventory devices, to flag them for recalls. Because I believe that being alerted to a bag and the value being in that vehicle is very significant. So we've got the population who are automatically checking VINs, doing a fabulous job. But for those recyclers who have Checkmate, PowerLink, Pinnacle, Crush, part of their inventory device, if it flagged the recalls, that would bring it to their immediate attention. I think we'd have a resurgence of people getting on the program for the bounty.
So just on that, what you're saying there is that in the US, the yard management systems don't flag a recall when you enter a VIN or when you enter the vehicle into the inventory?
This is a shout out to Mike at Buddy Inventory. His device not only highlights the airbags, but all recalls. In fact, he takes the NHTSA campaign and drops it into your YMS into one of the main files. But his is the only inventory device at this moment that flags recalls.
Okay, interesting. So one of the things that we did over here with the All Auto Recalls business, and again, I want to be careful. This isn't about promoting anything. It's about sort of talking about industry issues, right? But certainly with Hollander over here in Australia, at the minute we don't have the data available for New Zealand. but certainly with Honda here in Australia, there is a integration now with All Auto Recalls whereby they enter a vehicle into inventory, they do an MBR. If they're a member of the All Auto Recalls business, then their product will be searched, or that VIN will be searched for recalls, all types of recalls, not just Takata recalls. So there is a screen that pops up on the MBR and says basically, your driver's side seat runner has been recalled, or in the case of, Volkswagen or Toyota, just over the past couple of days, your gearbox has been recalled, etc. So certainly it's a really good product. I think it's critical, not only for the bounty. I'd like to go beyond Takata, Paul.
Exactly.
I talk again more strategically about how we work with other industries and people we want to sell parts to, like insurance companies and collision repairers. They want to know that the automotive recycler they're buying product from has checked their part for recalls, that they're not buying a recall component. Whether it's, today we're talking about mechanical components really, and electrical components, for example, airbags and so forth. But ultimately, we're going to be talking about things like headlights and door mirrors, right? Because these things, with all the different computers in them these days, they will be recalled. So we need to make sure that we check for recalls on the way in, that we check for recalls on the way out, but then more importantly, we check for recalls on an ongoing basis. And that means having a recall process in place. And I think Vince from Chad, one quick second. Vince, from an ARA perspective, one of the things I'd implore ARA to try and achieve is to find a way that ARA gold recyclers, for example, are able to check their inventory and have a process within their business that if there is a part that they've previously sold, whether that's 5 years ago or 2 minutes ago, that they've got a mechanism through which to be flagged with them so that they can talk to their customer, the person they sold to, and let them know that it's a recall, just like the manufacturers do. Sorry, Chad.
We discovered this issue, we identified this issue, we found a solution for it last year while I was president of ARA. And the solution is there. There is an API to a recall provider there in the United States. We've given that API to Hollander, to Pinnacle, to Checkmate to say, you have this connection, this API connection to check for recalls. We would like for you to build this into your yard management system so that we're checking for recalls at the time of intake and at the point of sale. Now, BidBuddy integrated it very rapidly, and that's their system is integrated with that recall system right now. But the yard management systems have the API, they have the connection, they have the data available to them. They have yet to implement it, and that's been 6 months, maybe 8 months. They've had that opportunity to actually build that, and it's yet to happen yet. But we understand that they're working on it. But as we all know, software developing is a slow build, and it's prioritized based on the demand of the customer. And it may be time for the customer to demand that a little louder because the tool is sitting there and is available for them to use right now. Also, there was a question earlier about ARA University for Australians. Sandy Blaylock sent a message to me. It's $275 US for an Australian to join ARA University, join ARA, and then ARA University is a free member benefit of that. So if you want to join ARA for $275 US, you could.
Hey Vince, could you share with us the link to joining ARA? I think that'd be great. I know it's probably easy to find it, a-r-a.org, for those that want to join ARA. But we'll get a link from Vince and we'll flick it across to everyone so that whoever wants to join, I think it's a good $275 spent. So we'll get that across. We've got some more questions coming through on our Q&A. Mike Swift, welcome, Mike. As always, Mike is quite outspoken. He's got a few there. So ARA had a law passed. We need the new team from ARA to get NHTSA off their backsides. And I'm sure the guys there are doing everything possible.
Looks like Tom has a question. I think Mike was, expressing the point about the law that was passed. which is a valid point. I know we continue to work on that, but it looks like Tom at I Need Spares had a question. You see that, Chris?
Yep. So, hi everyone. Can recalls be identified by part numbers? Yeah, it's a good question, but from a perspective of the Australian scenario, we identify recalls by VIN and then the associated part on that VIN. So, for example, in the case of airbags, we run the VIN numbers through the system. The system then says VIN number A is known to have a recalled airbag in it or a recalled lower control arm, whatever the case is. Some of the vehicle manufacturers, Tom, have a very good traceability system in place whereby they've got the serial numbers associated to that VIN for that specific part. So they'll know that serial number ABC on VIN number 123 was the airbag inflator fitted to that specific vehicle. Other manufacturers don't really know that. They just know that, you know, this group of VINs for Volkswagen, for example, fits into a category of potentially having affected airbag inflators in them, and they recall the lot in that group. So that's the way it works, Tom, at this stage. I hope that helps. From a UK perspective, we've been looking at deploying the service over there along with Chaz at the VRA. We'll be looking at that over the next 3 months. Hopefully by June, we'll be in a position to look at deploying something there. But ultimately, it'll be a very similar situation whereby it'll be a VIN number related call. Paul, is that what happens over there? Similar over there? Or is it by part number in the US?
VIN.
VIN. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, excellent. Good questions. I've got a feed here from Peter Butler. Hi, guys. Discounts from our partners are even more relevant for us in the Pacific. For example, one piece of software we use costs $1,800 US. With the downward trend of the currency, we now have to pay 3,050 New Zealand dollars, which would be good to be mentioned to the vendors when supplying overseas. Yeah, look, that is critical. I mean, we've got a scenario both in New Zealand and in Australia where our dollar has deflated significantly. So I'm tipping the US dollar against the euro is probably struggling as well, but nonetheless, that makes it an extra burden for us over in this region. So when you're talking to those vendors, Vince, please have a bet on our side.
Hey, Chris.
Yes.
Just tell Peter he should look in his chili bin for some hard, cold cash.
Okay, I'm sure there's something in that, Peter. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but
The chili bin's a cooler.
aha,
Where he puts his cash.
there you go. Peter, good advice from Paul. Okay, we've got 6 minutes left. Any last questions from people? Please do send them through. Just a quick reminder, we'll be streaming the recorded Facebook feed a little bit later on for other regions in the world that unfortunately our timing isn't perfect for everyone. We really do appreciate the fact that the guys from the UK are on this call. It's like 11, probably closer to 12 o'clock midnight there on Monday night. Thank you. Excellent. Again, we appreciate Paul and Vince and everyone from the US that's on both Facebook and this session here. We know it's probably time to have a beer, Vince. Probably not.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You got a joke you want to tell about a beer?
So I'm in Virginia. You know, they talk different than guys like me from Boston where I drive my car. So I'm telling some people about our 3 product lines at RAS. We've got converters, we've got recalls, and we've got cores. So the waitress had been circling the table, and 2 minutes later, she came back and handed me a beer. What kind of beer was it?
Coors.
Coors.
Very good. Very good.
Chris, tell us who's going to be on next week and what we're going to be talking about next week.
That's a good one. Okay, so before I go there, don't forget to look at our YouTube channel, Partnered Solutions YouTube channel. We've got this recorded and it'll be up there within the next few hours. So please share that with people. Hopefully these sessions are bringing value. Next week we have secured a gentleman by the name of Adam Murray. Adam is a senior person at Aviva Insurance. Aviva, I believe, is number 1 or number 2 in personal insurance in the UK. So they're similar to a State Farm or a Geico in the US, or a NRMA, IAG, or Suncorp here in Australia, and the likes of IAG in New Zealand. So Adam will be on the show. We're hoping to get Laura Richards from eBay UK on the call. I've been doing a bit of work with Laura and the eBay team in the UK over the past 15 months. And they'll be talking about that program that we're looking to launch very, very soon with a couple of insurers, which is excellent. We're really happy that we've advanced that. Even in the current environment, we've got insurers over there saying they want to do as much as possible. So, and they want to drive it as quickly as possible. So it'd be great to hear what Aviva in the UK, what eBay in the UK are looking at, where they've progressed to. Hopefully we'll have Chaz Ambrose, the CEO of the Vehicle Recyclers Association, on the call as well. So between the three of those, there's been a huge amount of work happening on reclaimed or recycled original equipment parts. Chaz has done a heap of work around certification, and they're about to launch their own certification program in the UK. Laura and eBay have been doing a huge amount with regard to how they're going to bring product off the eBay platform and build a business-to-business capability to put eBay product from certified recyclers in front of insurance companies. And Aviva and other insurers over there, working with another 3 insurers over there, are doing a super job promoting recycled parts internally and looking to drive certain trials over the next few months. So I think wherever you are in the world, it's of interest to everyone to be on that, especially those in the UK. We're going to change the timing around a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what time that will be, but we'll send information out. Please look out for it. Again, check your junk files. But unfortunately, a lot of the emails end up in spam or junk. They get caught out these days. So please check there. I'll be sending some personal invites out as well. Be on that call next week. I think it's going to be relevant to everyone all around the world, because if we can get something working over in the UK with the likes of eBay and a big insurer, who knows what's possible anywhere else. So I think it's really, really cool what's happening. I've got a last question here. Linton, hi guys, is the ARA, and if you're a member, are you recognized by insurance companies worldwide? Vince, do you want to respond to that, or do you want me to respond to that?
Chris, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So I think it's, if you're an ARA member, do insurance companies recognize you as an ARA member? And if so, what does that mean?
So ARA is we are always working in partnership with different insurance companies. We have the same interests, a lot of the same interest in regards to the legislative efforts for manufacturer procedures, but I don't think there is, to my knowledge, a connection between the insurance companies and the recyclers as a buyer. I think I don't think that they look at that.
Yeah, I think you're right. So Linton, unfortunately not at this stage. As an ARA member doesn't mean you get any special privileges from insurers, but it does show that you are keeping up with the times, and you're doing, and these types of things are critical, right?
Yeah.
Vince does a heap of stuff out there with the executive committee to promote recyclers, and if you're part of it, you're going to know what's going on, and you attend the conferences and all that type of stuff. I know it costs money, but seriously, it's the best money you'll ever spend. A few $1,000s there is worth a lot more than anything when they can do the conferences again, right? So hopefully the one in November. Is it November?
Yeah, we're still planning for Reno in November. So we're very much looking ahead of this crisis, and planning on hopefully being part of the healing process for everybody, because everybody's going to need to get together and help each other, fight our way out of this. So we're going to be there.
Okay, so we're right on 9 o'clock, or whatever time it is in your area. We've got a hand up though, and I'm just going to go to it quickly. It's been up for a while. Mike Swift wants to say something. I'm going to try and Mike, are you there? If you are, you're muted.
I'm here.
Okay, did you want to say something, Mike?
No, I'm just talking. I mean, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. It's just that, that in the past, as Vince just said something about the past, ARA definitely had a bill passed and signed into law by Barack Obama that NHTSA should provide us this information. And hopefully, with the new lobbyist, we can go after NHTSA and have sit-downs with them, hoping that Scott Robertson and Sandy and them will definitely have more sit-downs with NHTSA and more serious talks about getting this implemented into our yard management systems. I mean, I sat with Hollander and and Checkmate and Mike Lambert sat down with these people, and they've showed them how they can do this. So this can be done tomorrow. It's just NHTSA dragging their feet because the OEM control NHTSA, and that's part of the problem in the United States. And Chad can probably second me on that. Just the meetings that I was in, they listened to us. And as far as I'm concerned, as I told Sandy Blood, I want meetings that mean something for RAS, for people that already have the system in. What's the next thing to get recalled, Paul? If airbags is the next thing, what is the next thing to get recalled? And the cool part about what RAS has done, there is a system now. Utilize the system and give us the tools that we need. Just like when this Volkswagen recall came out in your country, wouldn't it be nice if, boom, that's automatically into our systems tomorrow? And there's a way to get that product back to Volkswagen or back to whomever needs it. So just some of my thoughts that we have the information, we have the law. Let's get on this with the new lobbyist. I was pretty quiet the other day when we hired him, but I'm going to be a very proponent of getting on this and get some of this implemented. And with the help of our like Raz and Mike Lambert and that around the country, maybe we can get something done with this. We have the law passed. It's time to stop dragging your feet. 4 to 5 years now, I believe, isn't it, Chad? I mean, I just don't even know for sure, but
2015.
Thanks, Mike. Certainly, Mike's got a lot of passion for the industry, and as the I think president probably 3 or 4 years ago, Mike of ARA certainly was very, very passionate and still is about the industry. So thanks, Mike. Appreciate your comments. Vince.
We had a question come in from Michael Malik, I think is.
Michelle Malik is from the Paint Body Shop News. Body Shop News is a large magazine and online and print magazine here in the United Arab Emirates, all over the world really, and works closely with collision repairers, paint companies, etc. So Michelle has asked, what dates in November is the ARA conference, Vince?
Right. Well, first off, Michelle, I apologize for butchering your name. Give me for that. So the dates are November 11th through 14th in Reno, Nevada.
We'll get the details across, Michelle. I talk to Michelle fairly regularly, and I'm looking forward to having Michelle on as a panelist in a few weeks' time. I certainly want Michelle to participate in this. He's got great reach in the industry and has been a great supporter of us. So thanks, Michelle. Okay, everyone. Again, thank you very, very much for attending. Please spread the news. Spread the, if you get the YouTube channel, get onto the YouTube channel, send it around, forward the link for the Facebook live stream to whoever you need to. Let's spread the word about, what some of the positive things we can do in the industry, for individual yards. What can you do today to prepare for the other side of COVID-19? We're going to be in a really good spot. I'm going to finish off with this. the economic downturn is going to be tough and long for everyone around the world. It's not going to be a 6-week thing. It's not going to be a 6-month thing. It's probably going to be a 6-year thing. And, you know, economies are going to be down for a long time. And in as much as that's not a good thing, for this specific industry, let's face it, automotive recyclers have thrived when things haven't been so good for other industries and for economies generally, recessions. Prepare yourself. People want to buy your product. Make sure it's presented well. Make sure your organization is presented well. Get your part numbers into your system. Take right photos for your online platforms. Make sure that the photos look good. Present yourself well. And I think there's a really, really bright future on the other side of this if you can maintain a position whereby you're still there, right? So let's do whatever we've got to do now and prepare for what's coming. Paul, Chad, Vince, thank you very much for being on the call. Really do appreciate it. It's been great having you on, and I'm sure everyone that's been on the call, both on Facebook and on our Zoom call, have appreciated you guys being on. Very, very, very helpful. Thank you.
I appreciate you inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.